This is Deep Blue, where we get the true life stories of BYU athletes, coaches, and fans. Here's your host, Jarom Jordan.
On today's show, we visit with a former UCLA and BYU women's basketball player who still has a good jumper, we'll ask her, and who's back at BYU as an assistant coach, who also had stage 4 breast cancer and a wish granted at a game at Duke. She is Melanie Day. What's up, Melanie?
What's up, Jarom? I almost called you Jordan.
I get called Jordan sometimes.
So
it's okay.
It's like a first name, last name thing, you know?
Yeah, and you're always thinking about hoops.
Exactly.
Michael Jordan, Jumpman.
MJ, I'm always thinking about it. My shoes, I always want to wear Jordans.
Of course.
So.
I get it. Okay, listen, when I saw you today, I said, "What's up, baller?" And I really mean that because you just evoke this swag and this basketball sense. Like when I see you, I'm like, oh, there's something cool going on right now. So thanks for coming in here.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me in here.
Okay, you have a really rich story. Let's start from when you were younger. You end up going to UCLA out of high school. UCLA, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool.
We were pretty good. We were a really good team, actually. In high school, my high school team was actually really good, like top 5 in the nation. Good. Had a teammate that went to Virginia, a lot of teammates that went on to play in college. And then went to UCLA. And yeah, when I left, my junior year, we went to the Elite Eight.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And my senior year, what would have been my senior year, we were picked number 3 in the nation preseason. And so instead of sticking around for that season, I did the old Mormon thing and went on a mission. So I went on a mission leaving that, knowing that could have been, we could have won the national championship. So it was a lot to sacrifice, decision? For sure. I came to that decision because I knew that's what I was supposed to do. It was that personal revelation that I knew I was supposed to go then. And I knew I was walking away from a really great opportunity, but I also knew it was the right thing. So in the end, it wasn't too hard because I had that overwhelming feeling that I needed to do this. And then what ended up being, what would have been my senior year for UCLA, they actually didn't do that great.
Well, obviously, Melanie Day not on the team.
I was the missing link. But yeah, they had the number 1 high school recruit in the nation come in as a freshman. My class in particular was just one of the most talented classes ever, I think. We had multiple All-Americans, and it just, for whatever reason, they just didn't gel, and they just didn't have a great season, which speaks to team chemistry is so important, which I'm really good at, apparently. And so I went on a mission, and then on my mission, another personal revelation came through. And I end up at BYU for my last year, not even thinking, basketball heavy, thinking this is the right decision. I have no idea how good BYU is when I walked in here. And we actually end up having the best season up to that point in history and went to the Sweet 16. So I was fortunate enough to be a part of an Elite 8 team and a Sweet 16 team. And we're hoping to do very similar things this year with our team.
That's awesome. Okay, so UCLA at a high school, and then mission to Lisbon, Portugal.
Yeah, and had incredible experiences there where I just grew so much, changed so much as a person. And like I said before, I had these experiences that have changed me forever, where I made this huge decision to leave UCLA while I was on my mission. And my mission president, awesome, Philip Trost. He actually let me call home whenever I needed to because I had this experience, this revelation that I needed to transfer to BYU. So he was all on board and helping me, which is not typical, right?
Yeah.
Back then, we never called home.
You can.
Yeah. Back then, it was 1 letter a week, snail mail, no emails. It was writing letters. Christmas and Mother's Day. Yeah. Christmas and Mother's Day is when we called home. And so he allowed me to call home to arrange, how do I transfer? And I ended up talking to he had me call my UCLA coach as opposed to writing her a letter, which is one of the hardest conversations I've ever had because I had explained to her, I'm leaving, and she had saved a scholarship for me.
Yeah.
She had saved it. She didn't recruit over that. And so having that conversation with her, she's trying to persuade me to not make that decision. And I know in my heart, I know what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, how do I tell this person who isn't faith-based like I am, doesn't understand what I have felt, what I needed to do. So that was a really hard decision, or really hard conversation. But yeah, it was very interesting time, talking on the phone a lot, but getting blessings and knowing like this is the right thing. So.
And that was Judy's first season?
That was Judy's first season as head coach. Was my senior year here at BYU. Yeah.
So you're like, this first year head guy, I'll jump right in. Was it about BYU? Was it about the program? You said you didn't know what you were getting into.
Yeah.
You just wanted to be at BYU?
I don't even know if it's want, but like, of course it ends up being that way, but I don't know how spiritual we can get on this podcast, but for sure it was, this is what you're supposed to do. I mean, if I can go into more detail, I remember exactly what I was doing when I had the very first thought of me thinking about transferring. I was brushing my teeth, being very good at my personal hygiene on my mission. I was brushing my teeth, and I remembered this. I flashed back to this memory when I was in high school, and I drove up with some high school friends to watch the UCLA versus BYU football game. This is probably like 96, maybe 95. I think 96, but anyway. And so we drove out to Provo.
Did you live in Irvine?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm from Southern California.
Yeah.
So I drove out with a couple of high school friends. And I am cheering for UCLA because like that's where I'm going to go to college. I know I'm going to go there. But as the game went on, I had this interesting experience in my heart. Like after a while, I'm like, no, I'm going to cheer for BYU. Like my heart is with BYU right now. So I switched to what I was cheering for. So here I am on my mission, brushing my teeth. And I was just immediately flashed back to that. And so it just started getting me thinking, like, why am I thinking about this right now? I'm supposed to be focused on these people on my mission. This is like halfway through my mission. And so I started thinking about it, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I thought, I need to address this so I can stop thinking about this. I got a blessing, and it was very clear of what I needed to do. It was very, very powerful, very clear priesthood blessing I got from one of the elders in my district. And after that, I knew that I was supposed to do that.
Without knowing if BYU wanted, they were going to take you.
Yeah, so.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, LDS transfer from UCLA? Yeah, we'll take you. But did you have all those details lined up?
No. In fact,
faith-based.
they knew who I was.
Yeah. Had they recruited you already?
Yes, it was a different staff, but they knew who I was, but they didn't have a scholarship for me. So here I was.
Did you walk on?
It's not that big a deal, but if you're in athletics, you kind of understand, like, scholarship's a big deal, right?
It's validating, but it's also logistical.
Yeah.
You got to pay for stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
so who didn't get a scholarship so you can... No, I'm just kidding.
No. So interesting story. Maria Chiara, who her maiden name is Goldsmith, she was on the team. She was actually recently baptized, came over from New Zealand, joined the team. Right when she joined the team, she had a prompting, probably the exact same time that I had the prompting to transfer to BYU. She had the prompting to go on a mission. And so
a spot opens up
I am
for
transferring to BYU. They didn't have a spot or a scholarship. She decides to go on a mission, and I have my scholarship. So, hey, the Lord works in mysterious ways, but it always works out.
Wow, that's crazy. We're talking with Melanie Day on Deep Blue. How's the Portuguese?
Mal.
That means bad or poor. I went to Brazil.
Yeah, that's right.
So I speak Portuguese. I actually went out with the missionaries the other day and spoke Portuguese.
No way.
To Brazilians.
Where?
It was fun. In Provo.
They have Portuguese-speaking missionaries here?
Well, they're waiting to go to Brazil due to COVID and visas.
Got it.
And their Portuguese is ruim. It's terrible. So your Portuguese and my Portuguese is a little different. Just like England.
Yes, that's what we always compare it to.
And American English.
Yes.
Cachorro,
the more sophisticated,
of course, you take that stand as a
is
European.
from Portugal.
Yeah. You say cão for dog, and we say cachorro, right? There's some differences. But
yes, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you automatically a Ronaldo fan?
Oh, automatic.
Because he's the greatest player.
I'm pretty sure I met him on
Portugal.
my mission. I have this journal entry.
Are you serious?
Meeting some kid named Ronaldo.
Oh, come on, there.
And he was about that same age in Madeira. He grew up in Funchal in Madeira. I was serving in Madeira.
You think you met
I'm pretty sure I did.
Ronaldo?
Yeah. I'm sticking to that story.
Yeah.
Could have been anyone because there's a lot of kids that named that.
Yeah. Would I be okay if I went to Portugal? Like, would my Portuguese be okay? Or I'd be a weirdo? Could I hang over there?
You could hang for sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You could hang in Brazil. Brazil's great. Brazil's great. Okay, so you come to BYU. It'd be enough to just be at BYU and play probably, but this ends up being Jeff Judkin's first season. I think he's 20-something years in now here.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, you guys go to the Sweet 16. There's an argument that that's the greatest BYU team ever because it's one of 2 teams that have gone to the Sweet 16. What was that year like? And this is what, 01, 02?
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. I love being coached by Jetty. He knows the game so well. His roots in the NBA and on the men's side with Rick Majerus, one of the greatest minds in basketball. And I just soaked it all up. Like it's almost like I'd never been coached before I came here, but I had a good feel for it. I just didn't know, had the understanding behind it. So I loved basketball. It was a very different team as far as no diversity for me. First time ever with not a lot of diversity back then. But it was a great group of teammates that I'm still close with to this day. We hang out still. And it was very different to have people that have the same faith, the same background in that way.
And that was probably important to you.
Yeah.
In that decision, or no?
Okay. That was purely, hey, this is your
You
lot.
need to go here.
Yes. And so I'm
Gotcha.
trying to be obedient. But I ended up loving it. I mean, it was...
Because some people don't love it, some people love it.
For sure.
It just depends.
It's just different, right?
Yeah.
Different than I'd ever had. But I ended up being really close to the team. We had a lot of fun on the road. And I think because of that team chemistry, that took us to that next level. And the assistant coaches were really young too. So Jonas Chatterton, who's now at Oregon State, Allie Bills.
Allie Bills, who helped me with my loan on my house currently.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get a plug
I
to
love
her.
Allie, yeah.
Mortgage officer Allie Bills, loans. So they were like, I want to say they were like 26, so really young. And I was older, so I was like really close to their age than compared to like the freshmen. So anyway, it was just a great group. It was I felt like the coaches really trusted us. We could do more than I could at UCLA on the road, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we had a lot of fun. Team chemistry was great. And we just got a good draw in the tournament. And we played Florida and just whooped up on them. I think it was like 90-something to 50-something in the end. They were not prepared. They were ranked. I think they were like 24th or 23rd in the nation. Just thought they would just steamroll us because we're an 11 seed and they're a 6 seed. And then we get Iowa State at Iowa State, and they sell out their arena. So huge crowd. We were down, I want to say like 10-ish points in the fourth or in the latter half of the second period near the end of the game, but we just came back and just calmly just took the lead, and the crowd just quieted down. And that was a moment I'll never forget, because when I was at UCLA, we were really good. We were expected to win. It's different being the underdog and then coming in and upsetting someone. And to be honest, it's a lot more fun to do that. I'll take either, right? I've done both sides, but it's a lot of fun to come in and surprise people that don't expect it, don't think much out of you. This team from Utah, this team, So that was a lot of fun. And then we had Tennessee in the Sweet 16. We had a chance to beat them. We had them. We had a good lead in the first half, and then we ended up losing by about 10 points. They had Kara Lawson, who's now the Duke coach, and some other
She's amazing.
Yeah, some other great players. So
yeah. Hey, it's Pat Summitt. It's Tennessee. It's a tough draw.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you get to the Sweet 16, it's on, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What an incredible run. Yeah, so 14 or 13, I believe the team also goes to the Sweet 16, matches up with UConn.
14, yeah.
We're talking with Melanie Day on Deep Blue. How's the jumper, by the way?
Oh, it's still wet,
Oh,
it's still good.
Still silky?
Yeah. It's okay. I'm getting old and I start breaking down in every way. But if I am in the gym for a little bit, I can get that back and I can shoot a little bit, you know.
Okay, that's good. You never really lose it. Like Jetty says, you don't lose it.
Yeah.
We always ask him, are you still the best shooter on campus?
Oh.
We always think it's Brian Santiago versus Jeff Jacobs. That's sort of the perceived
we need to have a
top two.
like a shootout
Yeah.
between those two.
I wish we had like a TV station we could
Because
show
they
this
both
on.
talk a lot of trash. So.
Does Jody talk a lot of
Oh,
trash?
for sure. I wouldn't say he's talking trash. He just
Confident.
owns that he's the best shooter.
Yeah.
So they both believe it. They both believe it very strongly. So
Okay.
we need to determine.
I love it. I need Jeff to fix my shot. Yeah, my shot's terrible. I played terribly. I need him.
Yeah.
Okay, so you tell us about your family dynamic. What's your husband's name? How many kids do you have? What are their names?
Yeah. Preston is my husband, and I met him when I was in Las Vegas coaching. And I have 3 kids. Allison is 10, Marley's 9, and Fletcher's 7. And I got all those names and ages correct.
Nice.
So I'm a good mom.
Very nice.
So yeah, I have 3 kids and a husband who works as an attorney, and yeah.
And you're an assistant coach on the basketball team.
Yeah.
With 3 kids,
Yeah,
under 10.
somehow we make it work.
How do you manage that? Because you're gone a lot.
Yeah, so he just started his own practice last year. So he's at home most of the time. I also have amazing parents who decided to sell their house in California and move here.
They're one of many.
Yeah. They moved here, and we actually built homes next to each other, so they help
that's
out a lot.
fun.
My mom is awesome. She helps out a lot.
Split yard or
Yeah.
same yard?
Yeah, no fence in between.
No fence.
Yeah.
Nice. That's fun. It's like every grandpa's and grandma's
Yeah, they just
dream,
walk
right?
out on their back porch and just see our kids playing. So
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's
great.
how we make it work. My husband is mostly from home for his work, and then my mom will help out a lot as well.
That's
So.
awesome. Okay, you said Fletcher's the youngest
Yeah.
boy? Okay, so when you're pregnant with Fletcher, you find out some terrible news.
Yeah.
And this is where your story is, to me, just unbelievable. You have stage 4 breast cancer
Yeah.
while pregnant.
Yes.
Like pregnancy isn't hard enough.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
what happens next? Because the fact that you're in here today talking to me is a miracle.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. So I'm pregnant with my 3rd, and I'm nursing my 2nd child still. So they're close. They're all close in age. And I have pain in my breast, and I go to the I see a doctor, and they tell me you need to rule out cancer. And so I do they do the needle biopsy, and sure enough, I have cancer. I'm pregnant. I'm just about near the end of my 1st trimester of pregnancy, and they tell me I have breast cancer. So in the doctor's office, you hear those words. I had my good cry, and then I'm like, hey, what do I do? Like, how do I fight this? How do I beat this? Like, okay, here's the 4th quarter in me. Let's go. Tell me what to do. And after that, it was just like doctor visit after doctor visit, just testing. The problem was I was pregnant, so they couldn't do a scan to actually find out exactly what stage I was in. They were aggressive with it, but they didn't ever know exactly the stage. And so I did chemo while I was pregnant, which I never knew was possible. I thought when I got the diagnosis that I would have to abort the baby. Like, I couldn't keep the baby. There's no way. And so when I got the news that I could, I just was ecstatic. So I go through chemo, the red devil, as they call it. It's not fun at all. And they had to do it for longer than typical because they wanted it to last my whole pregnancy, so that I wasn't doing nothing, right? They didn't want to have any periods, any pauses in the treatment. So I extended this chemotherapy that was already draining me. I mean, most days I just spent in bed, barely able to get enough energy to go downstairs and eat, to do anything. A lot of visits to the ER, so many that it was like the Cheers bar back in the 80s. Everyone knew my name. I would go in, and they would always put me in the same room when I would get to the hospital. It was a small town. We lived in Moscow, Idaho, while my husband was going through law school. And so it was a small hospital. It wasn't like I was just a number. They took really good care of me. So I'd show up at the ER. I would crave the getting on IV because I couldn't keep hydrated. So sometimes I would just like, just take me to the ER, get me some fluid. And so they'd hook me up to an IV, get me the fluid, and then they'd put me into this room in the labor and delivery floor, which is it's known as the cleanest area of a hospital, right? Because there's babies being born there. So they put me in this corner room, this really large room, and they always kept me in that room. And whenever I was done with my visit at the hospital, when my numbers were back up to more normal, I'd be sent home, but they would never let anyone go into that room because they knew I'd be coming back. So they always kept it open for me. I can't tell you how many times I stayed there, but
it seems like that means a lot to you.
For sure. Yeah. The care they took of me I was lucky that I lived in that small town. I think if I lived in California or, in a bigger city, I wouldn't be taken care of as much. Because there was a point when my husband finished law school. So I went through all the chemo and I had the surgery, and then he finished law school. And it's like, okay, he had to finish law school. He had to find a job. He had to prepare for the bar. And then we had to move wherever we're going, right? Like, we had no idea where we were going to move. He was looking anywhere and everywhere. He knew he wanted to be a prosecutor, so he was applying everywhere. He got a job in Nevada, and instead of me going with him, because it was a really small town, I'm talking like a couple thousand people. It was tiny. Lovelock, Nevada. Shout out to Lovelock. I loved it there. And because of that, we didn't feel comfortable with me moving there for medical treatment and being so far away from a major hospital. So I moved to California with my parents with this brand new baby, and he moved to northern Nevada by himself so he could prepare for his bar exam and, have time to do that. And
you had your baby, but you also had your other two.
I had my other two.
Who are what, 2 and 1?
They were 3 and a year and a half.
Oh my.
They're each a year and a half apart. And so here I am a week after this baby is born, and I'm on a plane with this baby flying to California.
And you just finished chemo?
Uh-huh.
How long did you do? How much more chemo did you do? Like, did you do it twice as much?
No,
as you
so
would have?
usually it's 6 rounds, and 4 or 6 rounds, and I did 8 rounds. So.
What's a round of chemo?
Yeah, so
like one
just an
sit-down?
infusion. Yeah. So you go in. It depends on what type of chemo. Mine was, I had a port, and the nurses just sat there and hooked me up, and they just pushed that red stuff in. And that's funny because they're like all garbed up in like protective gear. They've got everything covered up. No skin of theirs is showing. And here I am just like, all right, well, I guess it doesn't matter if the chemo gets on me, huh? Because you're like the one all garbed up. And so yeah, they just push it in, and it takes hours, and then they have to flush it. And anyway, it's boring. You just sit there. You would think it'd be like more exciting or more like crazy or dangerous, or I don't know. I don't know what I imagined before, but I didn't know you're just literally sitting there and it's just slowly going into you. And yeah, you get tired. I definitely got tired and took naps, but yeah, that's what it was like. That's a round of chemo. And then you wait about 3 weeks. So afterwards you're doing pretty good, but then your white blood cell count gets really low, and then it comes back up just in time for your next round. So the cycle of it.
When did you lose your hair?
Probably a month and a half into it. It was maybe even sooner than that. It just started just clumping out, shedding out of my head. And so I remember this one day I felt it. I put my hand in my hair, and I put my hand through my hair, and a big clump came out. And I sat there over the toilet, like just pulling out a ton of my hair. And I thought, okay, it's time. Like? It's time to shave my head.
Just shave it off.
Yeah, just shave it off. So my mother-in-law shaved my hair.
When you had your baby, did you have hair?
No, I was completely bald. Yeah, because I just finished the chemo. And, yeah.
And you get on that plane, you just what an experience. If people only knew what you had just gone through and were going through. Yeah. Right.
And it wasn't, back then I did have like a face mask and gloves because my doctors were so worried about me getting on a plane.
You're vulnerable.
I'm vulnerable.
At that point, right?
And so I'm wearing that stuff. And I'm sure I look like a freak, but I was used to it by then. I was used to people staring at me and have someone who had this big belly and was bald. And so I was definitely used to it.
Wow. We're talking with Melanie today on Deep Blue. So you hop on that plane, you go to California.
Yeah.
And what's life like now as you navigate this with your husband who's starting as a lawyer and prosecutor in Nevada in a small town, and you're with your parents, and you have 3 kids, 3 and under.
Yeah,
and you're probably feeling terrible still.
Yes.
Let alone you just had a baby.
Yeah.
Your body has gone through 2 very unique situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because when I was pregnant and doing all the chemo, sometimes I would forget I was pregnant because that's not what is on my mind. My mind is like, I'm just trying to get by every day and get through it and get enough food in me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm growing a baby too.
How'd you have the energy to have a baby?
I don't know.
It'd be hard enough to just have a baby normally. You know what I mean? That's perhaps, there's no great time to ever have cancer, of course, but you had it when you were pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how Fletcher is, well, I wouldn't say he's normal. Just kidding. I don't know how he came out totally fine, nothing.
Were you afraid he wouldn't?
Yeah, they were concerned with his heart.
Chemo and a baby? That's a little scary.
They were concerned with his heart, but he ended up being fine. So
normal?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
He's a little bit, all over the place, but that's just his personality. I presume. So yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I was going through it, I didn't think it was that hard because you're just when you're going through something hard, you're just doing it. You're just fighting through and you're doing it. As I look back on it in hindsight, I could have easily died. I mean, there was times I had my white blood cell count was 0 multiple times. I had to get blood transfusions, neutropenic, just like so many things wrong with me that I just was looked after, I guess, and somehow God blessed me to get through that, to tell this story today. I don't know how I did it, but yeah, it really didn't feel like much as I was going through it, but as I look back, it was a lot. And I'm sure that's how other people felt because I would always joke about it and say it's not that big a deal, but... There's
your sarcasm.
Yeah, and other people were really worried about me, and I just thought, I'm fine, don't worry about me, So I think that's how we handle our trials in life. Like, no one wants another person's trials, but that person who's going through it knows how to get through it because that's what they're given. And that's just, they have to get through it. They have to fight through and find a way. So people would all the time say that to me. I don't know how you could do it. I could never do it. And I say, yes, you could. Whatever trial you're given, yes, you could. You could get through it. Yeah. It's just what I had to go through, and it's no different than someone who has like a silent disease, like depression. It's just as hard, probably harder, because no one pays attention to it or gives it much credibility, like people do with cancer.
Yeah, yours was certainly visible.
For sure.
Like I'm imagining you on that plane, bald, baby, body post-pregnancy, like that's
face mask, which was not normal
gloves,
back then.
You said,
yeah, gloves.
Like. That was a moment, right?
Yeah.
That was a moment for you. Okay, so this was 7 years ago?
Yep.
Since your youngest is 7?
Mm-hmm, yep.
At this point, are you told you only have a couple years to live? What's the conversation like?
No, so I go to California and I still have more chemo to do. And then
It's not over.
It's not over. Yeah, that was just a little break. And they could actually stage me, which is also super confusing.
You're not staged at this point.
I wasn't staged because when you're pregnant, you can't do a scan, right?
You don't know if it's stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, and so
was that scary? Not knowing how far along it was.
Yes and no. The fact that I was doing treatment made it less scary. Like, okay, we're taking action here, so this is good. Once I had the baby and I get to California, I get a scan, and that's inconclusive. It's either stage 3 or 4. They don't know. Isn't that crazy? You'd think, come on, you'd figure that out.
Tell me.
So they treat me as if I'm stage 4. They're very aggressive with the chemo, and then I start radiation, which was really easy at first, but it got really hard. It fatigues you, and it just, you have, your flesh is just, they burn you. And so they did radiation on my chest where my cancer was, and I was just totally open wounds. It was pretty gnarly, yeah. So that was a time when here I am going through all these treatments, yeah, I have a little boy, a brand new baby boy that I'm supposed to take care of, which I tried to do for the first few weeks. And then
You're talking about breastfeeding?
I could breastfeed until I started chemo. But once I started chemo, I couldn't, right?
That's complicated, yeah.
And I only had one breast to do that. And so I tried to take care of him at night by feeding him, and then I got to a point where I got so sick, I had to go to the hospital again. And I had pneumonia, I had the flu, I was a mess.
You're extremely vulnerable.
Yeah,
with the
for
white
sure.
blood cell count.
For sure.
Right?
Any little cold for anybody else was pneumonia for me, or something.
That's intense.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm in this hospital, and I remember being there for a few days. Well, I don't remember the first few days really, but by the third or fourth day, I remember looking up, and I'm like, "There's a TV in here." I could have been watching HGTV this whole time. What am I doing? So I was so out of it. In fact, my family was trying to call. My parents were trying to call me. My poor husband was trying to call me because he's not even in California. He's still in Nevada, right? He was so worried about me, but I didn't have the energy to talk on the phone. I was just a mess. That was a very memorable hospital visit. So after that point, I wasn't taking care of Fletcher through the night. My doctor demanded that I actually get some sleep and not do that. So my sweet mother took care of my baby, stayed up with him all night and fed him. And she's not, young and full of energy. She's older, and something that I will never forget. Something that for them, I think they'll always be bonded because of that, Fletcher and my mom.
What a period of your life. So you're going through that chemo. You're in Southern California. When do you realize, because eventually I hear of you because BYU says, oh, Melanie Day is a former player here. She's got a bucket list. One of these things is Duke, North Carolina. We got to send her to this game. That's when I first heard your story. How long does it take to get to the point where you're like, hey, I want to make a bucket list because I don't know how long I'm going to live?
Yeah. I am cancer-free for a full year. And then going in for my routine scan, I get the call from my doctor to come in the next day to talk in the office. Never good. Just tell me on the phone. Why can't you tell me on the phone? And he asked that my husband comes. So we show up, and he's explaining all this stuff in his doctor jargon, and I'm just trying to keep it light and humorous. And he finally puts his hand on my knee, and he's like, Melanie, I don't think you understand. You have 2 to 5 years to live. The cancer has spread to your bones and your lower back, and the statistics say that you have 2 to 5 years to live.
What year is this?
5.5.
Well. 2 to 5. And we're past the 5 mark.
Yeah. So, that was a hard car trip home that day, and immediately everything changes, right? Like, someone tells you have a certain amount of time to live. It's, no more wasting time. Let's go do all those things that we said we'd do. Let's go do them. And so that's kind of where the bucket list came from. And part of it was, honestly, I was joking about this Duke, North Carolina game. That was a complete joke. There's no way in the world I can get tickets to that game. Like, that's impossible. So and there's other things on there that, that I would have loved to do, but I didn't know if I could have. So I've actually crossed off quite a few of those.
What are some of those?
I went skydiving.
Nice. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. I did it in New Zealand.
What?
Yeah, even better, right?
Yes.
It was crazy.
Flew into Mordor? That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, so...
What else?
What else did I do? I started a nonprofit.
About what?
Well, it's changed since then, and I've someone else has taken over. But hey, I did it. It was a lot of work to even figure out how do you do this, and this is my idea, and get people behind me. I got people behind me, and they've kind of run with it and done their own thing now. But that was a really cool experience. And so, other things like float down the Provo River. I've never done that.
Yeah, got to do
It's so
it.
simple, right? But I did that. I took
Yeah.
a girls' trip to the Northeast, saw the leaves in the fall, New York City with some of my good friends. And so just some things like that that I've accomplished, yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk about Duke, North Carolina.
Okay, let's talk
So you
about
said
it.
you joked about it.
Yes.
Well, it was no joke to Jeff Judkins and BYU women's
Yes.
basketball. They raised the funds to send you to that. And Jeff Judkins actually messages Coach K and gets tickets, and they host you. And
Yeah.
what was that like?
Incredible. Seriously, the
And
best.
it's Duke, Carolina. This is like
Duke, Carolina.
the college basketball game to go to.
In my opinion, the best rivalry in sports.
And the best location.
Yes, at Duke, at Cameron Indoor Stadium, this tiny facility, this tiny arena.
People don't get how small it is.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, I think the Smith Fieldhouse is bigger on campus.
It is. I
right?
think it is.
It's tiny.
I think it is.
Cameron Indoor is small. I've not been. I need to go.
Yeah, you
That's
haven't
on
been?
my bucket list.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you need to go for sure.
Yeah.
It's so tiny, and there's these benches for the Cameron Crazies, right? That's a whole nother topic right there. The Cameron Crazies. That was so fascinating to learn more in depth how they do it. I got to meet these. I can't remember what they're called, but there's these line leaders and people who go around during the camping, and they do quizzes, and there's different spots that they have to. People have to be there in their tent if they want to hold their spot in line, or they get kicked. Anyway, there's so much to the Cameron Crazies that people have no idea about.
How was the game?
How was the game?
How was the experience?
The experience was amazing. And so
You met Coach K?
I met Coach K. He
Nice.
my brother actually lives there in Raleigh. And I was there. I got there, I don't know, Sunday. I get a call while we're eating dinner. And the person on the other line says, "Hi, Melanie, this is Coach K." And I start laughing.
Like I
And
just did.
Yes, wouldn't you? And he keeps going, and I'm like, this really is Coach K. This is his voice. And so I'm jumping up off the dinner table, running upstairs, just kind of pacing like how you are when you're kind of nervous and excited. And he calls me. He doesn't have to do that. He calls me to let me know how it's going to work. He's invited me to practice the next day, and he's letting me know how it's going to work and where to go. And he could have had his, executive assistant do that, someone else do that. But he calls me. That made everything. It could have ended after that, but it kept going.
Did you save his number in your phone?
Yes.
Do you still
I
have
still
it?
have it.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Share that contact with me later.
Only with
I'm just
special
kidding.
people.
I'm just kidding. Okay, then what?
So then the next morning, next day we go to practice, and just eating it up, just soaking up everything. He doesn't even tell the players to do this. I think they're so accustomed to doing this, but each one of them came up to me and shook my hand and greeted me. They said, "Thank you for coming," said a little bit about me, that they knew. It's just so classy, just incredible experience. One of the managers takes me on a tour everywhere and then brings this big bag to me of gear. I'm like, oh my, this is... So after that, we just kind of hang out, walk through the Cameron Crazies. I just want to talk to people. I got donuts for them. I bought a bunch of
There
donuts.
were some news stations that kind of jumped in with you.
That's
You
true.
can watch some of these.
Yeah, a lot of
Yep,
these
that's cool.
news stations locally kind of followed me
They
around.
loved it,
Yeah. And so I brought donuts and handed them out and just chatted with the students. And a lot of them were drunk, but some of them weren't. So it was fun. And then the crazy thing is that Eric Montross, he played at North Carolina years ago. He's the radio guy for them.
Yeah.
He heard about my story, and I randomly ran into his wife, and she had told me how they were watching my news story the night before, and they were saying how we would love to meet this person, right? They wanted to meet me, and we just randomly met. So we exchanged numbers, and he had me come to the North Carolina side, which I felt like I was kind of cheating.
Because Duke had hooked you up.
Duke is the one who had hooked me up. Duke gave me the tickets. And so I felt like I couldn't tell either side, what was happening. I didn't want to tell Coach K, yeah, by the way, I met Roy Williams also and went to their practice and got to tour their facilities. So that was kind of funny.
How many miles away?
I don't know. What
It's
is it?
close,
7?
right?
I don't know.
It's like 4, I thought.
Okay.
It's
well,
UVU to
that's
BYU.
only 3 hours.
Honestly,
so,
it's very close.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
And so I go to their practice, meet them. I get to play Pig with Joel Berry,
Nice.
who ends up being the finals MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
guess who won?
You did.
I won. I beat him in Pig.
Jumper's still
I have
good.
it. I have it on video. So, yeah, just an incredible experience. Eric Montross is like the nicest guy on earth. He's so incredibly generous. And
I had an experience with Eric as well.
did
myself.
you?
BYU plays Louisville in 07
Okay.
in Vegas, beats Louisville. North Carolina's about to tip off, and I talked to Eric for a sec. My dad's from Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh wow.
I actually loved UNC until I moved to Utah and kind of went all in BYU.
Okay. But that's like your backup is the Tar Heels.
Not really.
Oh, not
It
anymore.
probably
It's
should
kind
be.
of faded.
Yeah,
Okay.
it totally faded. But I talked to him about, hey, my dad's from North Carolina, big Tar Heel fan, blah, blah, blah. And he
Yeah.
was the nicest guy ever.
So nice.
He was great. The next day, BYU plays North Carolina and actually plays them pretty tough.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's this memorable game, right?
Yeah.
But he was great. He
yeah,
was great.
yeah. So yeah, he hooks me up with all that, takes me on a tour, and
He's like, "What Duke give you? I will double it."
yeah, they gave me gear. UNC gave me gear.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I got to meet Coach Williams and the next day. So then I'm like buddies with both staffs, but I'm like, Duke brought me here and I've always been a Duke fan. And so while I love Eric and I have a greater appreciation for the Tar Heels and how they're just so different. And I learned a lot about the rivalry within North Carolina. Like most people in North Carolina are UNC fans. I didn't know this. Most people, the Duke fan base is like global, nationwide. It's not necessarily in North Carolina. There's not that many in North Carolina. So.
Interesting. My dad would always say, "Son, do you know why the sky is blue?" And I said, "Why, Dad?" I don't know. He's like, "'Cause God loves Carolina."
That's how they are.
That's the shade of blue. And I was like, I don't think that's true, but
that is hilarious.
Yeah, they won the Natty this year, so they're good. Okay, so you go to that game, that's amazing. But like you said, you were told 2 to 5 years, but here we are 5.5 out.
Yeah.
So where are you at with things? How are you?
Yeah. So after I was given that prognosis, they did radiation, and then they put me. I basically take a pill every day. I do hormone therapy, and it's worked. I actually doctor shopped after that. I got second opinions kind of in different places. I thought maybe I knew we had to move. I knew we couldn't stay there. I just wanted to get to a better hospital facility and situation. And where we were living in Nevada, I didn't have any family members, and I knew I had to be near family with that much time left. So
did you move to Vegas at this point?
No. Sorry, we were in that little town of Lovelock, but then we moved just closer to Reno in a small town next to Lake Tahoe. So it wasn't tiny, but it was great. We loved it. We loved Lake Tahoe.
You at least had Reno in terms of hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
care.
That's where I was at,
Okay.
but wanted something a little bit better. So we doctor shopped, and all the doctors told me, we need to get your port put back in. We need to get you on chemo. You need to do radiation. You need to do all these things. They're like, you need to do all these things right away. I came here to Utah, and I always kind of knew that we're supposed not always. After this prognosis, I had a feeling that we should move to Utah, which was very foreign to us. We're not from here.
You had lived here for what, a year in college?
Yeah, not that long for college. And so I didn't ever imagine myself coming here to live with my family. And so this prompting that I have to move to Utah was so foreign. But we took our visit here to the Huntsman and met with a doctor. And her plan was, no, let's start with the easiest thing without putting your port back in, without doing chemo. See if this works. And if that doesn't work, then we'll jump to this. And then we'll know what is and isn't working. And I thought, this lady is brilliant. Why haven't all these other doctors thought of this? And so she sold me.
The Huntsman Cancer Institute is legit.
It's legit. And so there's some other things that happened where we felt very strongly we need to move here. Number one being this doctor. And so, yeah, we moved to Utah based on that. And we do what she says, the very simple thing. And that has worked this whole time. I have never had to go back into chemo since then.
Oh, wow.
I had to do radiation, but I haven't had to do chemo since. So my doctor tells me I'm a walking miracle. My cancer hasn't changed. It's stayed where it is. It has not spread. They say I'm no evidence of active disease, NEAD. So it's kind of like the equivalent of remission for stage 1, 2, and 3. But since stage 4 doesn't have a cure, you don't necessarily say in remission. You say NEAD. So I'm as best as you can get with a stage 4 diagnosis.
Wow.
Just healthy as can be, sort of, when I work out and eat right and sleep, which rarely happens. But I feel normal. I am working here at BYU, which is another, crazy step in my life that I never thought I would get back into, coaching. But yeah, I just count my blessings every day that I am alive and healthy.
When you were hired at BYU, I thought, oh, she must be doing really well with your health, right?
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't going well, you're not signing up for what it takes to be an assistant coach. Because you're out on the road, you're going, and even then, let's talk about this. You ended up tearing your ACL mid-season or something 2 years ago?
Yes.
Playing pickup or something? What happened?
Yeah, I was playing in just a little tournament at Provo Rec Center with some friends.
Shooter's going to shoot.
Shooter's going to shoot. I made this nice move, juked this girl, planted hard, going to go up strong, and then twist, torn ACL. Screamed my head off, I'm sure. It was super embarrassing.
And then you're rolling around with a boot with a knee
crutches,
knee brace and the wheelie around and
Yep.
Like it's hard enough to just walk around and live, right?
Exactly.
And be an assistant coach and a mom of 3.
For sure. Now I have a torn ACL and I'm supposed to be coaching. How am I going to coach?
Add this to the list.
Yeah.
Jeez.
For sure. Yeah, so I also had 2 hip surgeries right before that. Yeah, I just love surgery. I think I like the drugs after the Percocet, and so that's why I try to get injured and get the Percocet as much as I can.
Hey, TMI. TMI. Well, yeah, you're a walking miracle. You really are. How do you feel about, you were told 2 to 5 and you're past 2 to 5, or you're past 5.
Yeah.
How do you look at life now? I mean, with where you're at, and like you said, like, you have stage 4 breast cancer still. You live with that every day.
Yeah.
Well, what's that like?
Yeah, I guess it's something that I don't really talk about because I'm kind of living my normal life. I'm so busy with my normal life that A, I don't have time to think about it. B, I'm not seeing doctors all the time like I usually was. It's just not on my mind. And my mindset is that I've been given this chance, like this second chance at life. And so I'm trying to make the most of it. And I don't know how much time I have. No one knows how much time they have, but I'm just going to make the most of it. And I'm not going to sit here and, oh, poor me, and dwell on the fact that I was given this prognosis, I'm past it. So what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to come any day now? I can't stress about it. I can't add that to my already stressful life. And so I just have to live like anyone else. Live like I didn't even have the diagnosis. Just live the best that I can and go on with my life. I can't sit here and dwell on it and talk about it. I rarely talk about it anymore because of just the busyness of my job and my family and just all the responsibilities that I have.
Well, thanks for talking about it today.
Yeah, for sure. Every once in a while it's good, It's good. So
how has this experience changed you? That's the most loaded question I could possibly ask you.
Very good, Jarom. Really, really proud of your interviewing skills. How has it changed me? In so many ways. It's made me want to rethink or check myself when I'm about to judge someone. And that could be in any way. It could be their appearance, right? Like I was judged all the time walking into the grocery store, bald lady, big belly, 2 tiny little kids, like who is this lady? And to have when I would be in that situation and people are staring at me, I would always try to make an effort to initiate a conversation because I knew they had the question, what is wrong with you? Why are you bald? And so I tried to initiate the conversation and talk with them. And it's made me realize it's okay to ask people what's going on, in a way that shows that you have genuine concern, not in a judgmental way, why are you bald? But in a gentle and caring way, I think you can do that with people. I think people are too afraid. People who look different or in a wheelchair or just, it's okay to talk to them. I think people would rather have that than just be ignored or stared at all the time and no one ever talks to them because they look different. I'm too afraid to ask them a question. But yeah, life is too short to judge people. Life is so hard. Why would we want to judge people? Like, leave that up to the ultimate judge. It's changed me into stop saying someday. Like, someday I'm gonna be in good shape. Someday, well, that's still something I'm working on. Someday I'm gonna be rich and gonna be generous with my money. Someday I'm gonna start a business. Someday I'm gonna take this dream vacation. Whatever it is, I think we all need to take a look at that and say to ourselves, why not? Like let's do that now. Like, make it happen, because we don't know if we're gonna have that someday. It's made me just so many things, but I think the main things to me are just treating people better, being more compassionate, and understanding that life is really hard, and we need to also not judge ourselves. And if we can not judge ourselves, it makes it easier not to judge other people, and forgiving ourselves that we're not perfect at things, and being patient with ourselves. I think a lot of people struggle with that. So I hope to help my kids with that. I hope to help my players with that and understanding that, giving them that broader perspective, because we're so focused on the here and now, and like these college students are, which I understand because I was this way, but very about me, what is in it for me, and this is all about me, which it is. It's a time where they're trying to figure out their own lives and also what they want to do with their lives and who they want to spend it with. It's a big time that's, they have a lot of those decisions that they're coming upon, but broadening their perspective to understand that we need to treat people better. And it's not just this short life. There's a much more eternal perspective to remember and to understand, like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's not just this right here, this earth life. It's a lot longer. We got a lot of time, and that's what's important. It matters what happens in a million years, not what is happening right now.
She's a walking bucket. She's a walking miracle. Melanie, thanks for taking several minutes to hang out here.
Thank you so much, Jarom. You made me cry, so job well done.
That'll do it for us. You can watch these Deep Blue stories on the BYUtv app, listen to previous episodes of the radio show on the BYU radio app, or where podcasts are found. For Melanie Day, producer Trent Reimschussel, I'm Jarom Jordan. We'll be back every Saturday with more compelling Deep Blue stories right here on BYU Radio.